Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nikita. Welcome to the Cryptus channel. And in today's video, we're going to have an interview with Kenny, the core contributor from the Manta Network. And we're going to find out a little bit about the project, how it works, and what the future plans of Manta Network are. And yeah, I'll just leave the word up to you. Please, Kenny, introduce yourself and tell us something a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing in the Manta Network.
Yeah, it's a tongue twister. Everyone wants to say
Yeah.
Mantaverse now because of the metaverse craze. But yeah, so a little bit about myself. But first of all, thank you for letting me be here. Really appreciate your time in the interview. But yeah, so a little bit about myself. I've been in the crypto space for a little bit of time now. Started back a while back, just kind of hobby Bitcoin mining, just doing a little bit of exploration. Learned a little bit about Bitcoin liquidity at the time because I think it was around like 2014, 2015 when I really started trading, and liquidity was a little bit scarce compared to nowadays. And so built a few solutions in the liquidity space. And then pursued my MBA at MIT in around 2018 at the end of the most recent bull market. And that's where I met my co-founders for Manta Network, actually. So the other co-founder is Victor. He was studying at the time for his master's in economics at Harvard. And he had cross-registered for courses at MIT, specifically in blockchain courses. And I was the teaching assistant for those courses. And then Shuma, he was working at Algorand at the time. And, Algorand's an MIT spin out, right, created by an MIT professor. And so, yeah, we all met in the MIT area. That's how the project really got started.
Awesome.
Manta Network, yeah, and Manta Network is a privacy project that we felt was a really big necessity for the space, because the existing privacy solutions that we saw were allowing people to use like maybe one specific cryptocurrency to transact privately, right? Like Zcash or Monero. But we were thinking, in order to truly be a privacy utility, you need to bring privacy features to every crypto, right? Being able to privatize any crypto asset and transact that privately. That is like, I think the state of privacy for Web3 that we wanted to achieve. And so that's why we decided to build Manta Network, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. And we're starting with the Polkadot ecosystem, and building out so that we can privatize all parachain assets. So I can send you DOT privately, I can send you KSM privately, I can send you Moon River tokens privately, rather than specifically using one crypto. So yeah, that's a little bit about us.
Awesome. Well, first of all, from my side, thank you also for taking your time, because I've seen your schedule. It's really crazy, and it's really great that you found some time for this interview. And yeah, you were talking about MIT. We're actually on our Russian channel. We're translating, basically voiceovering the MIT courses from Gary Gensler from the 2018. Yeah. And we've got 14 lections already. We're doing it since half a year, and I guess we'll be done in another half a year. So yeah, it's really valuable information there. But my first question would actually have been about Manta Network. How does it look for maybe the people who did not see the videos, maybe on YouTube or on our channel? We've made a video regarding Manta Network as a parachain. Would you probably add something to what you've just previously said, or is it basically it for Manta Network? How does it look like as a project? What does it do?
Yeah, so I think, definitely there's a few things, right? One, which I mentioned before, being able to privatize other assets and do that, and transact privately in that manner is very unique, right? But two is that because we're able to privatize various assets, we're able to create private swaps as well, which means that, now I can exchange my private DOT for like private, I don't know, Manta. In like an AMM style DEX with that added layer of privacy. And three is that, a lot of other solutions, they're building on top of other blockchains, but we are a layer one. So we're controlling the network as well, right? And being able to expand and distribute that network in a way that isn't confined to proof of work consensus means that we're a lot more scalable, a lot faster, a lot more inexpensive. And so that is a really big value proposition for privacy, right? Because if you want it as a utility, there can't be financial barriers to using it, or else privacy becomes a luxury. And so that's kind of the stance we took when we decided to go layer one.
And considering the privacy, there are basically many definitions or many, I will say, layers of privacy, how private we can get. What's layers of privacy, or what's basically defines the privacy in your blockchain, basically in Manta Network? Are you just hiding the address of the people which are making the payment and who are receiving it, or is it something more to this?
A lot more to this. So it's every single piece of data for every transaction. And so this includes, your sender address, receiver address, the amount, the currency, et cetera, right? So like one of the things that we do, which is also fairly unique, is that all of the zero knowledge proof generation that like obfuscates all the data, all of that happens locally on your device, right? So none of that data ever leaves and gets processed over the internet, like on like a cloud computing platform or something. And so that means that that data is never at risk in transit, right? Because it's stored on your local computer. And so as soon as any data hits the chain, it's already completely private.
Awesome. So basically that means that either then some people get access to your computer, they cannot even get the chance to encrypt the data, which you've basically made private when sending the
and
transaction.
Actually, yeah, so that brings up another point, because because this information is local, right, and it's ephemeral, but it also allows for us to enable self-auditing, which means that while no one else on the network can track your activity or know what you did, like, obviously we can't either, but you yourself are able to, right? So if you ever wanted to get your transaction history and all of your activity, you'd be able to do that.
Awesome. And a question regarding Polkadot, basically, maybe the whole ecosystem, and how hard it is for a parachain basically to get onto Polkadot. You as a part of basically a core contributor, maybe a team member, can you share some of your opinion? How difficult is it to get into the parachains in Polkadot, maybe in the top 5 as you are right now? So is it a lot of work? Is it just basically purely marketing, or is it really technological projects which are winning the parachain slots right now?
I would say it's definitely very focused on community and marketing, right? I'd say in terms of your ability to execute, right? Like on Kusama, I honestly think it was just as hard to get a slot in batch 2 than it is when batch 1, because what ended up happening was like batch 1 was like the first parachain auctions ever, and it happened on Kusama, right? And so no one really knew what to expect. But then once the parachains completed and projects started launching and their products started going out and their tokens started going out, right? People that didn't participate in the first parachain auctions and seeing all this massive like growth in the ecosystem started having FOMO. And so then they were like, oh, I gotta participate. And so that's why, batch number 2, you see that the amount of Kusama contributed is like, I believe it was more than slot number 1, or at least around the same amount, right? Because like by the end of slot number 1, I think it was around like 100 to 150K Kusama to get slot number 5. But when you went to slot number 6, it was like 200K again. And so, you see this sort of phenomenon, and the reason I'm pointing this out is because it's an indicator that this is a very community-driven approach, right? And there's a lot of positives to this, because when you have this community-driven approach, you aren't able to just launch arbitrary projects on the network, right? And that's sort of a quality control layer. You have to be able to prove to the community throughout the entire process that you've been building, you're legit, right? And so like the community will support you in return. And there is no, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I doubt there is any single whale out there that's able to support a single project through a parachain auction, at least for like slots like 1 through 10. And so it really boils down to community trust, right? And the first time that we're doing this, the first parachain auctions that we're doing right now on both Kusama and Dot, it's highly experimental. It truly is just about your trust in the project, your trust in the people. I think that, with the renewals a year later or 2 years later, depending on which chain you're on, it's going to be a lot more about execution, right? Because if, for example, Manta Network, just contrived example, if we are not able to deliver on the privacy technology that we're promising after 2 years, right, then what are the chances that we're going to get another parachain slot? Yeah. So it's not just like, community-based, right? well, it is community-based right now. It will be community-based in the future, but I think like the merit, our ability to execute is going to have a lot more weight in the future.
Also, because right now a lot of projects are giving out a lot of their tokens, and I reckon they cannot give like every single 1 or 2 years 10, 20, 30% of their tokens to the allocation. So it definitely will be more driven towards the technologies. Well, that's only my opinion also. Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah, definitely. Because like there's a few things, right? Like one is that a lot of our projects, we have reserves, right? Manta Network and Calamari Network, we have reserves for future auctions as well. But, what we see is that right now, because for us, we haven't launched yet, we don't have like a token available yet. And so people are putting a lot of trust in us for the first stage, right? Which is why we're rewarding proportionally. But like once we actually have the network up and running our products, people can use it and try it and see like, we're actually able to execute. I think like the value of our project is going to increase a lot. And so in the future, right, like you may not need as much DOT to secure a parachain, or the amount of DOT can be raised without as much of a pool of rewards.
Definitely, just because maybe your assets are already on the blockchain that you just don't want to, you want to still use them. But anyways, without going too technical, how are the tokens using Manta Network, Calamari Network being made private? So basically, what's the key points of maybe for that all the people understand it kind of?
Yeah, so I think, a really unique thing about Polkadot, right, and Kusama is the cross-chain messaging, XCM, right, allows different parachains, layer 1 projects to communicate with each other. And so you can communicate many different things. For us in our, private transaction, the simplest way of thinking about it is someone is on, I don't know, let's say project A, which is a parachain that's not ours, right? And project A's person wants to privatize the token A. And so what that person does is essentially creates a quote unquote deposit into a specific location. And that triggers on Manta Network to generate a privacy preserving version of that token for that specific person. And so it's akin to like a wrap, right? But the wrap that's generated is privacy preserving. And then when you're using the wrap token, that's on Manta Network's layer. And so you're able to privately transact or swap with various other constituents.
And why is there basically a need to create this extra private token? So kind of for the wrap token, why can't we just do the same functionality, add the privacy functionality to the existing tokens? Maybe you could answer this as well.
Yeah, so I think that's also a unique sort of opportunity that we're taking to provide a true privacy as a service, right? So like when I say as a service, software as a service in cloud and Web 2.0, this is what I'm kind of referring to, where like, if you're a business and your core value proposition is to, I don't know, make drones, right? Your value proposition is to make drones. You've mass produced drones, you sell them to consumers and they love your drones, right? You want to focus on making drones. Why do you need someone to design your entire payroll system to pay your employees from scratch? You don't need to, right? You don't need to have spreadsheets of everyone's payrolls and calculate taxes manually. You can use like, I don't know, QuickBooks or like other payroll services, right? And so you don't need to hire these in-house experts to do it for you because that's not your core competency. So why waste resources and time and money on it? That's exactly the way we feel about privacy, right? And because Polkadot has that XCM, the cross-chain communication, that provides us the perfect opportunity to, execute on privacy as a service, where we can provide you that privacy layer for your tokens, and you can continue to focus on your core competency, right? Which awesome. Is, DeFi or NFTs or metaverse or other things.
Yeah. And why would anyone actually want to go private with their transactions? Like, what do you think are the main reasons for this technology or the main use cases? Like maybe in the good ways also, not just hide my address and the amount I've sent of the money, but maybe, what are the use cases?
Oh my gosh, the use cases are, I could go on and on about the use cases, but two things to think about, one on a consumer level, and one on a business level. And so if you think about the entire blockchain space and where it's headed, it's ultimately going one of two ways, right? The first direction is it's just going to completely crash and burn. No one's ever going to use it. It's going to just like, disappear. Okay, whatever. right? In which case privacy doesn't matter, but also in which case nothing matters. Nothing that anyone's building matters, right? But in the event that it does scale and becomes, Web3 mass adoption, the new internet for everyone, then everything that we're building today matters, and privacy needs to be a critical component of this, right? Because if you think about it, one, on the consumer level, right now in Web 2.0, where is all our data stored? It's stored on centralized servers owned by mostly Facebook and Google, right? And so, these organizations have so much data, so much information about you and the world that they can create what's known as shadow profiles, which are profiles of users that don't even use Facebook. Like they probably know those users better than you do. So if I had a best friend who doesn't use Facebook, Facebook probably knows my best friend better than I do because of all the data they have, right? And so that's a scary concept, but we're only really scratching the surface of exactly what that implies. But ultimately, what I'm saying here is that there's a lot of data that's owned by central entities, and it is already a major cause for concern, not just for individuals, but for governments already, right? And this is just Web 2.0. When we're thinking Web 3.0, imagine 3 to 5 years from now when we have all sorts of applications beyond, DeFi or metaverse or NFTs, right? Like we're talking about, I don't know, the grand vision of 2017, where we wanted decentralized Uber and decentralized, I don't know, Uber Eats and decentralized Uber something else. But anyway, but like 3 to 5 years from now, thinking about how these applications will evolve and be developed, and people will shift to Web3 and start using and interacting with applications that purely exist on chain. All of that data is public. Every time I call an Uber, every time I pay an Uber, right? Like that information is going to be transactional and viewable on chain. That's a huge invasion of privacy. And the bigger problem here is that it's not just Facebook having your data anymore. It's not just Google having your data. It's literally anyone with an internet connection can have all your data, right? And so if privacy is a concern already in Web 2.0, for that second path of Web 3 where it is successful, then privacy is going to be a huge concern there. And so that's just on the consumer level, right? And if you think about on the business level, businesses, projects, we're all about, IP and, secrets, right? And it's not because, the companies are nefarious, but, they protect certain manufacturing processes because they spend a lot of time figuring out how to do it. And that gives them a competitive advantage. But now all of a sudden you're transacting on chain and people are seeing where your sources are coming from and how much you're paying for everything. And it just completely changes the dynamic of, business models. And so there's a lot of preservation of privacy that extend far beyond, I don't know, buying drugs or something, right? Like, this is the exact sort of reputation that Bitcoin used to have. Back in the early days of Bitcoin, everyone was like, oh, people use it to buy drugs and do bad things, right? But now we see Bitcoin has transformed into a lot more, and the entire blockchain ecosystem has transformed into something that's so large and positive for not just us individually, but collectively as a global civilization, right? Not just a national level civilization. And I think it's going to be the same thing for privacy, and people will come to realize that.
Awesome. So basically, the two things are, as I understood it for myself, it's all about giving the privacy back to the people. So first of all, and the second of all, it's also about the intellectual property, kind of. Because as you've just said, intellectual property is literally a key thing. I didn't think about this one before we've talked. Awesome. And so you've just told that we can make any token private. Is this correct? Like literally any token that's being minted on every single parachain, basically on Polkadot, it could be made private with, all right. And the token,
Oh, I was just going to say, yes, with an asterisk mark. And the asterisk mark, the details is the other thing about, cross-chain communication, which speaks to more about like the philosophy of Polkadot and its collaborative nature, right? Because with cross-chain communication, I can't just say one day, oh, I'm going to privatize Moonbeam's tokens, right? I have to write code to integrate Moonbeam's tokens, but Moonbeam has to write code to integrate our tokens as well, right? And so like both projects have to agree to participate in this communication method. And so that makes it extremely collaborative. And that's why the Polkadot ecosystem, I think, is so collaborative. And that's why you see so many, I guess, meetups and calls and conferences where projects are just like working together and talking together in one room. But the reason I say that is because going back to, yes, we can privatize any parachain asset, but with an asterisk, is that the asterisk means that the other projects have to accept our collaboration.
So there's some amount of pre-work needed to be done. You can't just send any token. All right, good, because that was the question. Awesome. And basically, after the token got private, then it's possible to send it, for example, out of Manta Network, send it over to a different parachain and use, for example, their DEX. And basically, it's just a normal token then on Polkadot.
Yeah, I mean, the privatized version stays on Manta Network. The public version can be redeemed at any point in time, and that can be taken out of Manta Network, put into other chains, right? And with the XCM communication, right, there is possibility of, you know, the private tokens interacting with different parachains as well.
Awesome. And a really, really big question, which might bring a lot of, I know, extra liquidity to some users. The original tokens, which are being made private, are being locked basically by a smart contract, as I understand it. This is correct, is it?
Well, no, it's not a smart contract, but it is being locked.
It is being locked.
Right. So there is no smart contract layer for parachains. Not by default, at least, right? That's why, you know, Moonbeam has to work so hard to make the EVM layer compatible. But yes, it is locked. And yes, there are some, like, you know, ideas around liquidity and staking and stuff that we're exploring around this time.
That was my question. If the tokens can
Great
be reused.
minds think alike.
So basically, to sum it all up regarding the technology, you can see Manta Network as like, for the people who are maybe like back in crypto a lot of few years, like Zcash or Monero, just on steroids, basically. A lot of privacy, but with extra features.
Yes, because we've come to a point in time, right? Like, because technology, I mean, it's not just the crypto space, it's just technology in general. Like, it's always being iterated, it's always new versions coming out, always improvements. And we've gotten to a point in time where we believe we can truly execute a new sort of chapter of privacy for Web3 that is very utility focused, as a service focused. And yeah, so we're taking that chance.
Awesome. And one question about the technology again, maybe will it be possible to bridge some tokens, or the mirror tokens, basically the wrap tokens, this is the correct word, over from Manta Network to different blockchains, maybe to the Ethereum blockchain via a bridge, or this is something you are not planning to do?
I will say that we are planning to have Turing completeness on our network. And so that does imply, you know, EVM compatibility. How the EVM compatibility bridges over to other networks, you know, that's going to take a bit more work for us, because we have to maintain its privacy on other networks as well. And so the bridge transfer and all the technical details there, it's still in the research phase, but that is definitely on our roadmap.
Awesome. And what niches do you think might potentially benefit the most from your technologies? Maybe there are some specific blockchain projects which really require the functionality which you're offering, or maybe there are some real world use cases that you look forward to, which can basically implement the privacy which you're offering.
Yeah, so you know, right now we are very focused on decentralized finance, because it's not just a pain point that we recognize from like a lot of the surveys that we've done, but also personal pain points of a lot of the founders and the team members, right? Like, so just for myself, whenever I pay people or send, you know, crypto to people, like a stable coin or something, just to like pay for things, I have to think about how I send it, because if I send it from the wrong wallet address, then people can trace it back to see like all the tokens I'm staking and all this other stuff, right? And I want to keep that information private. And I think, you know, just on a very, very basic level, being able to not have to worry about that and just send it directly, and people still can't see any of my other underlying information, like that is the first low-hanging fruit use case that we're going after. And the specific user, the audience, the I guess, quote unquote client, right, is not directly the user necessarily. Although, you know, users will be the ones using the privacy, but being able to integrate with parachains, being able to partner up and create that cross-chain communication so that the parachains can take that value and deliver it directly to their users. Like that, I think is what makes the privacy adoption occur, and it's what makes the whole thesis, I guess, valuable.
Well, as I understood from the project, Manta Network is really going to mess up the law enforcement in Russia regarding crypto, because we don't have really any laws by now, but there are a big packages of laws being like really discussed till the end of the year. So at the end of the year, we probably need to all declare our crypto, how much we own. And with the privacy, this will be really hard, even because it will be hard to prove that we own this and then it turns to the other crypto, because, well, it will be basically difficult to follow the lead. This is what I wanted to say. And are there actually any big events that are coming to the community? Because we had the big allocation in Calamari once we contributed to the Calamari network. This was really awesome that we could participate in Manta Network, basically, in the public sale, pre-sale public sale, the correct word for this. But is there anything other that the users might or the community might look forward to and be happy about?
Yeah, so we are doing our crowd loan right now. And so anyone who contributes, we have a generous pool of 15% of our entire token supply. And everyone who contributes DOT, every single DOT gets a piece of that. There are some rewards like referral rewards, early bird rewards. And also, this is something that we forgot to mention, not because we did it intentionally, but just because we're moving so fast that sometimes things slip through the cracks. But in Calamari, I don't know if you guys might have noticed this, but there's 20% of the entire token supply that's reserved as lock drop for Manta token holders. And so what that implies is that anyone who holds Manta also gets a proportionate amount of that 20% in the Calamari supply as well. And so the reason why we did that was because one of the big features that we're launching with is governance. And I don't know how much you followed our socials or community, but like, we already have kind of unofficial governance in our Telegram channels. We've changed up a lot of things just based on talking with community members. Like I talk privately with community members. We do video chats, and like I look through all their analysis on everything. Some of them do really great detailed analysis. And so we use that information to make changes to our own plans. And it's very community driven. And so, we're very excited for the token launches, because that's going to help us usher in that next chapter of community. Because right now, right, like doing it on Telegram is great and all, but you have trolls and bots. But when you do it on chain, right, being able to prove that you're a token holder, prove that you're part of the community, that definitely provides an added layer of value for governance. And so, we're launching that with Calamari. We will be launching that with Manta once the parachains come out. But what we realize is, because the projects on Manta and Calamari are basically the same, right? We do want that sort of cross-chain interaction in the community for governance. And so we want to reserve a portion of Calamari tokens for Manta token holders so that they can participate in Calamari governance as well.
Awesome. This is I think not many people did notice it, because not many people did bring this thing up to the audience. But again, we will make sure to add this in the time codes. But yeah, is there basically, for me, that's all the questions we wanted to ask, because we wanted to keep the interview short, but really get to the point, to the bottom of the project. Is there anything else you wanted to add from yourself? Maybe what's something you want to share with the people?
Yeah, I think, one thing is that, and this is something, it's not my idea, right? It's just something that when I was speaking with Dan from Akala, and when he said it, it clicked with me so well. And so I can't take credit for what he said, but this is what he said, right? We're at such an exciting time in the Polkadot ecosystem, because right now, right, we're so focused on every little step. But if you just zoom out to see the bigger picture, we're the pioneers in this ecosystem. And every step that we take right now is going to create the future for the rest of Polkadot, right? If these projects can execute, and they can execute well, then, we've essentially set the stage for the rest of the Polkadot ecosystem. And if we can't execute, then that also sets the stage for the Polkadot ecosystem. And so there's a lot of responsibility to us on our part, not just for building a project and making it work for the community, but for the sake of, Polkadot and its future. And so I think, with the first 10 parachain auctions, like that's extremely critical, because these projects that are going to be launching, hopefully us as well, we're not just representing ourselves, right? We're representing the entire Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem. And so that's a responsibility that I think every parachain project definitely needs to keep in consideration.
Of course. Well, yeah, as you basically said, this is up to you, because you're in the first networks which are hopefully going to launch really, really soon. But fingers crossed. But I really want to wish you the very, very best luck, that you do accomplish the goals that you've set for yourself. And so, of course, your whole project, your whole community, because in our opinion, this is a really, really big work which your team is doing right now, and you've opened my eyes a little bit more to this regarding, for example, the not the whole community layer, but the business layer for the privacy. And you really make an impression of a really friendly, warm person. I really enjoyed talking to you right now today. So thank you again very, very much for coming over. It was being a big pleasure for us.
It was a lot of fun. You let me talk a lot, and so I appreciate that.
Oh, that's actually what I'm here for. Yeah. Well, and yeah, guys, that's actually it for the video. I really hope you enjoyed the interview. We will leave all the links to the social media of the Manta Network, to the crowd down in the video description. I hope that they will be helpful for you. I hope that the video and the interview was helpful for you. And thanks so much for watching. And from me, bye-bye. Kenny.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys.